Hi, my name's Megan. I'm a therapist and coach, and you're listening to Career Congregation Podcast. I created this podcast to inspire people in their careers. After spending hundreds of hours working with clients, one thing I noticed that so many people have in common is just how many people truly don't enjoy their work, or worse, hate what they do every day. I created this podcast to help people start to make changes in their everyday life so they too can find work they love. Every week, I speak with people who've made changes, taken risks, or built careers in ways that feel meaningful to them. These conversations are here to offer real life inspiration, perspective, stories, and practical ideas you can apply in your own life, whatever your industry or whatever career stage you're at. If you enjoy these interviews and are curious about what it's like to work with me one-to-one, you can find details of how to work with me in the show notes. Thank you and enjoy. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Today, I am very excited to be joined by the amazing Jodi Scott, who is the founder of Green Goo. Hello, Jodi. Welcome.
Hello. Nice to be here with you.
Yeah. Where are you dialing in from today?
Boulder, Colorado, USA.
Yay. Love Colorado. My brother's in Colorado, so.
It's fun.
Yeah, I like it there. I am still in Portugal, so this is a transatlantic podcast today. Can you give everyone a little bit of background about you, Jodi? What is Green Goo, and what is your early childhood influences growing up? Cultural background, whatnot.
So I grew up in the military, moved around all over the world. Yes.
Nice.
And my parents, you'll love this, you'll appreciate this. So we couldn't afford to go places, but my mom loved to travel. And so we didn't do Christmas presents. And it was wherever she could figure out scraping pennies to go places. Well, in the military, they would let you take hops, international hops. So we couldn't travel within the United States, but we could take international flights for $10 a person. But oftentimes you were like in jump seats, or there was one time that I was like, this jump seat is so uncomfortable. I'm laying on this metal floor, and I'm like laying next to pallets that are being like hooked to the ground. And I'm like, if that thing moves, I'm in so much trouble. And we went to places like Portugal and Europe, Germany, Japan, all these, Singapore. And it was so funny. I'd come back from Christmas and everyone's like, I got this and I got that. And I'm like, ugh. I went to Japan and went skiing, and I was like so bummed. But mind you, I don't remember what the big hot gift was, that everyone got.
Travel is the only thing you can buy that makes you richer.
Yes, it's so good, so good. And so my brother, sister, and I just had the best time. And I think that like having that family, just moving around all the time, they became my best friends. My mom loved to garden, so her love for plants was really our invitation to learning about plants. But she would never plant a garden because we had to leave it. So she just had a boatload of potted plants, like a boatload. So every time we'd be moving, we'd be crying. And then there's like all these potted plants in the car. And you're just like, but then you get to the next place. And that is how our home became our home, because it was like when the potted plants got put down and the pictures on the wall, then we were home. And I'd say one of the most interesting aha moments that set the stage for Green Goo and our passion for clean ingredients and awareness for caring was we were in the middle of a move and we're upset. We're in the minivan, with all the plants. And I'm like, okay, Mom, like I understand why the plants can't go with the movers. Like clearly that doesn't work. But why do we keep carrying this big box of cosmetic products with us? Like, first of all, you never use them. They've been with us for at least 5 moves. Yeah. And 2, like, can't we have some more room in this car? Because we're all squeezed in here. And she's like, well, the movers can't take anything that's flammable. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you're putting stuff on your skin that's flammable? She's like, yeah, that's just what you do. That's just one of the ingredients. And my sister and I looked at each other and we're like, we are never putting anything on our skin that's flammable. Of course we did. But like, it was our awareness moment. And we were like, we need to start reading ingredients on skincare, because we were athletic. We cared about what we were eating because food was performance. And so we were really into like checking that out. But we had never thought about our personal care products, nor had we thought about that they were flammable. So fast forward, I'm pregnant, and I'd say we were living a pretty clean life, and I got a cut, and I went into the first aid cabinet, and I decided to look at the ingredients, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the thing that, like, we knew better. I'm like, I don't want to put this on my body, this Neosporin, and I sure don't want to put it on my daughter.
I was going to say, I don't want to name and shame, but was it Neosporin?
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing we know. And I'm looking at my first aid cabinet, and I'm like, what is all of this? Like, there's so much junk. Half of it was expired. It was a mess, and I didn't like that. And so I went back to my sister. She was going to herb school, and at the time, I just finished my master's in health psychology. I was pre-med, training resident physicians on the biopsychosocial model, studying psychoneuroimmunology, so like really into like disrupting healthcare and mind-body medicine. And I'm like, Jen, have you looked at these ingredients? And she's like, oh my gosh, like, and she's a purist, and I'm like, you have this stuff in your house? And so it was so interesting because we found that we weren't alone. The natural consumer was willing to abandon their natural ethos because we were just told that this one-time use chemical-laden solutions are the only things for wound care. If it doesn't sting, burn, or dry your skin out, it must not be working. And chronic skin conditions are at an all-time high. Mm-hmm. And then to add to that, the conventional consumer was like, I'm not worried about the ingredients. I want something that works better because I'm one of those people suffering from chronic skin.
Like when you said if it doesn't sting, burn, whatever. Also, if it takes away a sting or a burn, then people are less likely to care what's in it because they're like, I don't care, it works, right?
Right. Yeah. Like dry it out. Just get it as dry as possible.
Just make the pain stop or make the itching stop, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then it's used 7 to 10 days. If symptoms persist, you need to go see your doctor. And some of that is they don't want you using it for longer than 7 to 10 days.
Because it's toxic.
Yeah. And it's not getting the job done. So then it's inconvenient to go to your doctor. So that's when we thought, what if we can make a plant-based solution that's first superior in efficacy and by the way, plant-based, and let's clean out the cabinet. Let's have more than one product for one use, and let's see if we can make it multifunctional and then really simplify our lives. So Green Goo was born.
Wow. Okay. So the origin story of Green Goo is actually you started with a green thumb from your mother.
Yes. Yep.
Oh,
you got it.
Cool. I didn't know that before. Yeah. Okay. And from when we connected, which was for the record, several months ago, Jodi and I have had quite a lot of scheduling difficulties getting this to work today. So I'm very excited that today I woke up and I was like, we're finally going to do it.
Yay.
So from when we first connected and you gave me the story of Green Goo, it's a wild ride that you've had with your business. So can you tell us a little bit more about the journey of Green Goo? Because it's just it's inspirational.
It was wild. It's been a wild ride. So, we start this, my mom, sister, and I, and mind you, we all came from healthcare, and my mom is a self-taught computer programmer, website developer, because she learned to reinvent her career being in the military, moving so much. Everyone always have a tech person. And so, but we didn't have a business degree. We didn't have an MBA. We didn't know how to run a P&L. And all of a sudden we were just thrown into this, and it was growing really fast. Here we were growing the herbs in our backyard, drying the herbs on old screen doors. I'm sure people driving by were like, what is happening in that house? And then our kitchen is one big production facility. And our production got so big that we actually had to take our outdoor camping equipment and make an outdoor kitchen for us to cook in for our food because we couldn't use our kitchen. So, just scaling and understanding what it meant to take something from your kitchen into manufacturing was its own. And we go outside of like your traditional manufacturing, because the reason Green Goo works is because we process the plants. Because a lot of what people are getting today is like a version of a plant. Like it's been exposed to high heat, or it's been denatured, or, some chemical is compromised the compound. And like the reason Green Goo works is because of that beautiful medicinal profile. So we had to protect that process in order to scale. And then all of a sudden, like, we're in retail, and like we didn't know what that meant. I'll never forget going to my first big retailer meeting, and I'm in the waiting room, and they're like, "This is the second largest retailer in the world. Do you know that?" And I'm like, "No," and I didn't need to know that. Like, I'm already scared. Like, no, thank you. So we grew to like 150,000 points of distribution in less than 5 years, and contract manufacturing, registering our products with the FDA, learning to scale this process in a way that could support that kind of retail, and learning how to run a P&L, learning how to build a team, how to build a culture. I mean, I was on the road 3 weeks out of the month with a little daughter. And there were times, she is now, you'll appreciate, she is like a world traveler now, because like I'm bringing her on planes as early as 3 weeks. And there'd be times where I would have like 5 meetings in different locations. And so I would bring my husband and daughter, and they would just go to the children's museum. Like they'd find something to do. I would go into a Walgreens meeting or whatever. And then we would have a little afternoon adventure. And so... yeah, she can navigate an airport with her eyes closed, which is great. It's super fun. I asked her what she wanted to do for spring break. She's like, "Let's go to Paris." And I'm like, I love that you think that that's that easy to do. Like, no, we can't. But I really appreciate that. Yeah, the world is your oyster, and it's a small place. Go explore.
It is. I hope she continues thinking like that.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. So we grew, and then the pandemic happened, and we were completely retail. So if you had poison ivy, you went to your local pharmacy. And by the way, I will add, we were also forging the path for plant-based. No one used the term plant-based then. Yeah, I'll never forget talking to that pharmacy buyer, and I'm like, "I got a plant-based first aid." He's like, "Those two words do not go together." He's like, "What does that even mean?" And so, but if you had a skin issue, you went to your local pharmacy, and online was just not what it is today either. But also, first aid is you go to the store. And so the pandemic happens, and all of a sudden, no one is in retail anymore. And we're like, "Oh no. We're going to have to like fire our entire team." And the team just did this beautiful job of pivoting. Like all of a sudden we are bootstrapping and creating bridges wherever we could when the whole world was trying to figure out how to ship things and how to find containers. I mean, if you didn't have getting containers was nuts. The thing to put the salve in, if you didn't have money right then and there to buy a whole container, like a shipping container of bottles, you couldn't get them. And everyone was just scrambling for packaging and scrambling to distribute. And so we had like 10 shipping locations in people's homes. And like my parents are shipping till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. My in-laws, like whoever we could find.
I mean, the adaptability that the world witnessed of businesses like pivoting essentially to survive COVID. It was so impressive, honestly. Like at the time, like you're in it, so you're totally dysregulated and freaking out. But when I look back now and I remember like every local restaurant that had never done like delivery or takeout before. That all of that packaging, that must have been crazy for them to get all of the containers, because suddenly every restaurant became like a drive-through place where you could go and pick up the food, right?
Oh, it was so nuts. And
Yeah.
it was a Friday night at like 6 o'clock. And I remember being like, we're not going to be able to fulfill these orders because we don't have enough containers to put them in. And I just randomly picked up the phone to call one of my packaging, he's kind of like a consultant, if you will. And he's like, you're not going to believe it. I just got off the phone with the Red Cross and I'm getting, I don't know, 10 million of these bottles. And I can sacrifice 500,000 of them for you. And I was like, who would have thought on a Friday at 6 o'clock that I would even be able to solve that? And it was like those small little miracles, or like walking into what was our office and our headquarters. And now it's full of like 50 pallets of product that needs to be strapped and sent to a national pharmacy. And you're just like crawling over the pallets and you're thinking, 3 weeks ago, this was people, like this was my team. And now like this is a shipping space. So, we got through it and we didn't have to terminate a single employee. And we were super proud of that. And we're about a year out of it, and I'm just seeing
You didn't have to terminate anyone?
nobody.
Wow.
Yeah.
So everyone's role just went from what, like store floor to packaging?
Whatever hat we could all wear. It was like,
Yeah.
and it was so cool that everyone was willing to be that versatile. Like the same way you talk about the restaurants and shifting and pivoting. Not everyone's up for that. And everyone just rose to the occasion and was willing to do more and shift. And I will never forget, I was dropping pallets off at employees' houses so that they could even ship from their homes. And yeah, it was wild, setting them up as now a shipper in the computer. And it was just a fun little happy accidents that we just happened to have a system that everyone could tap into it, from home. A lot of people didn't have that. My husband just happened to be in IT, and he was like, we need to make sure that, if someone needs to log in at home, they can. But no one thought about that before. Nobody was doing remote work.
So you set up like the Green Goo intranet for employees.
Yeah, like our ERP system. I was like, do we really need our ERP system so that like if someone is 100 miles away, he's like, yeah, we do. Because he's just always thinking ahead, and in 24 hours, everybody was working from their home, and there was like no disruption there. I was like, okay, you're right.
Wow, that's amazing. So where are you guys now?
Well, that's where the plot thickens. So,
I feel bad. Did I just cut off part of the story?
Oh no, this is leading to where it is today. So I had this reflection as I was sitting there, and we had been in fight or flight to build the company, fight or flight to get through the pandemic. And I'm watching friends' businesses all crumble. So many brands that I loved did not make it through the pandemic. And the common theme was like, the big ones. The big ones could insulate risk from something like this. And of course, we're in the first aid space. So like, we're talking about like the biggest brands in the world. And we're like, we can't weather another pandemic. We can't weather another storm. We need to do something. So that's when we decided we were going to start fundraising and see if we could find a financial partner. And ultimately, we landed on an international company that wanted to build a plant-based portfolio. So they were early stage, but they were well-funded. One of their founders had an investment firm, and they had a global footprint. And we had interest in Hong Kong and Singapore and Japan and Australia. I mean, we had so many countries that were ready for Green Goo. They were like, okay, like it's time. And I love that they had plant-based and they were interested in that, and we could expand brands through our channels here in the US. So on paper it was like really great. And so we folded in, so it wasn't like a financial exchange. It was more there would be financial resources. And so soon after the partnership, one of the founders faced major legal and financial issues, including things like being raided by the feds and negative press, and all of a sudden they lost their financial resources, their reputation was tarnished, and we lost everything. In less than 24 hours, we had to terminate our entire team, including my mom and sister, including my husband, my brother-in-law, employee number one, best friend from college who shifted her career to come work for us, and there are multiples of them. And we're like, wow, we worked so hard to avoid this exact COVID thing. Yes.
Yeah.
And done. 24 hours. Production stops. And we're like, what are we going to do? We lost our jobs. We lost our sense of purpose. We lost financially everything. And we're like, I mean, just the paralysis and the anxiety is like nothing that I can describe.
Yeah.
And the sadness, like crying and sending people on their way, like really great employees. Like we had such strong retention. People loved to work at Green Goo. And to lose them was just heartbreaking. And
what a rock bottom. Like that is
the rock bottom.
That is a perfect definition example of a rock bottom, because I've had people on before that are like, well, it was bad, but this is a rock bottom.
Rock bottom.
In case anyone wasn't sure what that looks like, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
Well, and saying this out loud, you know, you see things on the news where you're like, oh, CEO of a public company jumped from a building. Like, I always thought that was absurd. And I was like sitting there at the table. I'm like, okay, mom, sister, I need to preface, like, I'm not going to jump off a building, but I actually understand. Like, when you feel that, you're just like, whoa, this is scary. Like, I scared myself in understanding. And
well, that level of pressure, when you know that so many people's like livelihoods depended on your business, right?
Yeah. And I lost 15 years. Like I had a small business prior to that was like a hobby business. I lost that money because I invested it as the startup capital for this company. That's 20 years of your time, which is your most precious thing. My family, I had lots of angel investor families who had put in their retirements and their dollars. So the pressure of them losing that too, I mean, you feel horrible. And then, like you said, like people's jobs and having to change. And I mean, we were sitting at the kitchen table that evening and I was just like, I don't know where to go from here. Like I can't stop worrying about the future. I can't stop regretting about the past. And then, you know, that sense of purpose, that thing you got up and you fought for every day, you're just like, it's like taken from you and you don't know what to do. And the moment, I mean, it's as simple as this thing. I literally pulled out my lip balm because I love my lip balm, and I put it on and I was like, what are we going to do, guys? Like, I can't live without this lip balm. I was like, Mom, how much Green Goo do you have? Like, I can't live without this face wash. I need my skin repair. And then my sister's like, we're going back and forth and we were literally checking each other's inventory. And my sister's like, are we going to have to start making this in our kitchen again? Because, like, we can't live without it. And then at the same time, I'm getting emails from, like, my son is a paraplegic. When are you going to be back in stock? It's the only thing that works. My mom is a diabetic. This is the only thing that works. You know, my son is has eczema. Like, and you're just, like, inundated with these emails. And I'm like, we have to buy it back.
I'm really glad that you just included that part, because my next question was going to be, can you show us what it looks like and what people use it for. I mean, obviously, like you touched on at the beginning that it, is like a replacement or like a far optimal replacement to a lot of like medical creams and stuff. But what are all the varieties of Green Goo?
Yes. So the 4 core, so the first aid bundle is like your first aid cabinet. Like you can literally like boom, everything out, back to that mantra of like all you need is these 4 things and they do the job. So we've got our first aid, which is basically your Swiss Army knife for first aid. It is your first aid kit in one little tin. So cuts and scrapes, bug bites, bee stings, poison ivy, ingrown toenails, chafing, sunburn. Back to what you had said, if it stings, burns, itches, or bleeds, you use that first aid, and it does all of those things. Safe for your dog, safe for your kids. Goo goo for your boo boo is really fun, and then there's the pain relief, which is your topical analgesic, and so this is post recovery, like injury. Workout recovery, but also like in your wellness journey, managing your inflammation is really important. So like I'll use it just as a head to toe moisturizer before I'm going to fly. Or if I just want to be like, I need a little reset because inflammation is so important to stay ahead of. Yeah. Then we have our dry skin formula, which is our hydrocortisone. This is, John Hopkins has been using it in their scleroderma and skin condition department for over a decade. So chronic dry skin, eczema, psoriasis, this is your go-to. And it's also like your winter lotion, head to toe skin moisturizer. And then skin repair, which is started out as a burn and scar after sun. So has a lot of aloe in, so you can see why it's great for like after sun, burn and scar, great for scarring. It's also an amazing anti-aging. So it is like, put this on your face every night before you go to bed. Use it as your lotion alternative, especially in the summer. Head to toe moisturizer, rich in antioxidants. It's so great for your skin. And I will tell you, I love this story. We were at my daughter's volleyball tournament a couple weeks ago in Florida. And one of my daughter's friends goes, so I need to start using, they're 14. She goes, I need to start using Green Goo more. Your mom's skin, like, has she ever even been in the sun? And I'm thinking, oh, I was not good to my skin younger. And I was like, thanks. I'm like, Green Goo, head to toe. Because it's such a good moisturizer. So,
well, that's amazing because it's selling itself, right? Love it. Yeah.
No, healthy skin and nourished skin without all that other junk. It's not only do you see it in your skin and it shows up in your skin, it also shows up in your mindset. It shows up in your immune system because you're getting rid of the things that aren't good for you, those endocrine disruptors, those forever chemicals, those phthalates, but then you're giving it what it needs, which is like really good nutrition and antioxidants that are coming from these plants that help with cortisol and inflammation and ultimately mindset and sleep. So it's really cool how it all works together.
Yeah, well, and I mean, the skin is the biggest organ on your body, right? So what you're putting all over it is being absorbed into you. So it's amazing that it's plant-based and all organic. I was actually had like a vision in my mind when you were telling the story about when you guys first started sort of like implementing it into retail, and you had like the herbs drying hanging over the screen door. That was such a visual for me, and it made me reflect on have you seen Practical Magic?
No, but my daughter used to watch it. Yes, I remember seeing it.
I mean, it's very like it's about witches, right?
Yes,
it's like fun, witchy. Sandra Bullock, Nicole Kidman. It's like very, very old, but they're obviously like witchery.
Yes,
all green thumbs. They have they do all this gardening, and they know all the herbs and all the plants and whatever. And there's in their greenhouse, they have like all these dried plants hanging from the ceiling, and she has her own beauty line, Sandra Bullock, and she has like a beauty store, and she makes lotions and all this stuff, and people keep coming in and they're like, what is in this? And it's like just all these like natural ingredients. So that's what that made me think of. You should watch. You've got me so excited. I'm gonna totally watch it, because I was thinking of a TV series that my daughter used to watch, not this one. So
Yes, that would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's from when I was a little girl.
I remember.
So
Yeah.
it's like I think probably 80s, maybe it's an
Yeah.
80s movie. And then I actually just saw an article the other day that they're doing a sequel. So Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock were doing an interview, and they're back and they're doing a remake. So like everyone from like my generation, like all the millennials are like, yes,
Even
so,
better. Oh, that's
yeah,
so
so you
fun. I love that they're revisiting that. Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
that is it. And you would see all the jars of the dried herbs and all the, herbs soaking and so forth. So that'll be fun. Yeah.
Well, and I just think it's so it's such a statement about, like Western medicine and like big pharma and all of that. I'm not gonna like become a hater, but the whole story like behind Green Goo and the origin story and the fact that it's all natural and plant-based is that if only people knew more, right? And we just blindly don't really read the ingredients and put stuff on our skins, like trust the governments and big pharma to like actually look after us, which surely there's enough evidence out there now that people should know that we need to like kind of do our own kind of due diligence, and like you should be reading the labels, like you really should. And one of my first experiences with really kind of waking up to like skincare and beauty products was actually during COVID. I never used to pay as close of attention to it, but there was a podcast episode, I can't remember what podcast it was, but the person being interviewed on it was a young woman who founded Beauty Bar, the app,
Maybe. Uh-huh.
which is American. I now use a global app, but it's an app where you go in and you scan products and it tells you like how toxic they are. And I learned from listening to that podcast that like the United States is like, it's like the worst place in the world in terms of what they allow because they have so few limitations. So manufacturing, like beauty manufacturers in the US can put really toxic chemicals in beauty, like in lotions and toothpastes and shampoos and deodorants that are banned in a lot of other regions in the world. So like Europe's blacklist of ingredients is like thousands of ingredients long, but the one in the US, when I heard the podcast, I couldn't believe it because it was like, she was like, yeah, there's less than 10 ingredients on the US one, and there's like 3,000 in Europe. And I was like, oh my God. And my sister had just had my niece at the time. So my niece was a newborn. And so my sister and I listened to this episode, and she was so freaked out. So she downloaded the app, and then she threw away all the baby products that she had for my niece. And she started ordering these like really expensive products from Canada that scored really highly. So I wish we'd had Green Goo at the time.
Well, it's not too late. And I love how you framed all of that. And my daughter uses an app called Yucca, so very similar.
I use Yucca. Yeah.
And she'll be like, oh my gosh, Mom, like this packaging made me think it was clean ingredients and it's not. And, I share with a lot of people, like I don't think anyone initially intended to hurt anyone. The Industrial Revolution came, and it was like all of a sudden we could just mass produce consumer goods and get them to people. We didn't have the transportation we have today. We didn't have the technology we have today. We didn't have the science that we have today. And we didn't have Amazon, And so... And there was this idea that like more value meant more volume. So we need to stuff it with stuff. We need to put a lot of, different preservatives in it because it might be 3 years before this person gets these chips or this skincare product. Mm-hmm. And so it just was what it was. And then I think 10, 15 years ago, there started to be, are these phthalates and these parabens and these petroleums bad for us? Maybe. And we saw this like emerging natural sector saying it is, but there really wasn't the science and the funding to support it. And I do attribute like the pandemic and how your sister and y'all came across this podcast Because I think it shifted the awareness and the funding to say,
Well, and everyone was so worried about getting sick, right?
yes.
So everyone was like, how can we be like the healthiest versions of ourselves, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And
Yeah.
like when I was talking about the plant-based first aid to the pharmacy buyer, and he was like, those two things do not go together. Like forging the path for plant-based was so hard. Like part of me being gone 3 weeks out of the month was I wasn't just meeting with buyers. I was going and I was speaking to groups and going to conferences and like shouting from the rooftops why this is possible and why this can be good for you. And then the pandemic comes and it's like, oh, and the farm bill passed and all of a sudden people were understanding like, oh, plants, hemp, it is connected to inflammation. It's connected to, you know, perhaps some
CBD and hemp
yep.
really like rose in infamy during COVID. I
Yeah,
forgot about that.
I was at a conference and they did this like lunch panelist on how these major retailers can bring hemp into their shops and why it's processed and how it's processed and the medical benefits. And a bunch of people, buyers came to my booth after that and I said, you know how they talked about hemp and how it's processed and this, and that? I'm like, that's what we're doing at Green Goo. It's just not with hemp. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, I get it. Okay. And of course today, plant-based is a term that people use. You can get plant-based water. I'm not sure what that is, but you know, it is a term that it is being used, you know, interchangeably. And we have the science and the funding now to support that these are endocrine disruptors. They are harmful for our bodies. And that's the beauty of eliminating them when you don't need them, because plants, when they're processed the right way, and I will say a lot of what people are getting in the natural channel was natural, trying to fit into that manufacturing industrial revolution model. So they were, again, getting these plants that just don't have the medicinal profile that they could have. So they weren't really experiencing the power of plants the way that they can do in their form. But what's so great is when you eliminate all of this other junk, then when you do have a medical intervention and you need that amazing Western medicine, then you're in really good shape. Like a doctor loves to work on a healthy patient. And it's so, it's saying, hey, we don't have to just accept that this is what is available to us. Every time we purchase, we're making a vote to change what becomes in the highest demand and what makes it on the shelves.
Yeah. And actually that makes me think about like packaging and labels as well, which I know we've touched on with like reading the ingredient list, but the ability to say that it's plant-based and then learning the sort of loose regulations around that. Like it's the same as saying something is high in protein or low in fat, and it's actually understanding the ingredients and learning how easy it is for companies to kind of manipulate the packaging as well, which is like another it's just a thing like people should educate themselves on. So it's like really nice that you guys actually are completely plant-based. But recently I had a guest on. He's just recently launched his own protein powder, and it's basic AF beef protein powder, and it's made from like beef isolate. But he went to the manufacturers, or like he found like a distributor, and he went in and he learned all this stuff about how people will say, like with collagen powder and beef powder, what the percentage is. And a lot of the protein powders, it's like totally skewed with, you think you're buying a high protein powder, it might have 20 grams of protein in it, but there's only like 1% beef, and it's like 90% collagen, and it's like not very good collagen. And anyway, so it would have been so much education for you when you started doing all the packaging and ingredient lists as well. What was that journey like?
Oh, goodness. Especially because here we are in one, working with plants, and two, we're in first aid. So at the time, it was really cool. And somehow, again, one of those wonderful happy accidents, we found out that the FDA was starting to invest in botanical research and that we could actually register our products with the FDA because we were using the plants and we were using them in the concentration that then puts them as an active ingredient on the label. So we started that process, which was really interesting. And of course, my sister being the herbalist is like, well, calendula does more than just an astringent. Like it's antifungal, it's anti-yeast, it's antimicrobial, it's skin repair. And I'm like, we can only say it's an astringent. So that was the interesting part, going and trying to fit us into that model, which is we can only reference the herbs on our panel as the FDA recognizes it. And there are a lot of herbs like marshmallow root. My sister's like, why can't we put that up as an active ingredient? Well, the FDA hasn't incorporated that one yet. So, but the FDA continues to build that catalog. And so we can say active ingredients, what these plants do, and then we just obviously disclose the inactive ingredients because there's plenty of goodness in there. Okay. But you'll see a lot of like first aid solutions specifically, like they don't disclose the inactive ingredients. They don't have to. And especially if it's such a small amount, they're meeting that criteria. So there's a lot of stuff that is just, not being disclosed. And to your point, not having that information or the greenwashing that happens. Like, we have arnica in this. Oh, but by the way, it's also with the petroleum. So, whatever version of the arnica plant we have, which is probably a fraction of what, kind of like that protein analogy you gave, is a fraction of the arnica plant. And it's going to be...
Like, it just has to contain a tiny amount of the ingredient. And then you can say that that's what that product is, but that's actually not what that product is.
Exactly. So, and that's what I love. I call it the plant-based renaissance. I feel like we're here today now, and there's so much more awareness. There's so much more opportunity to find transparency. And finally, like especially with Green Goo, we can prove the results. We've sold over 1 million jars. We've got thousands of 5-star reviews. I had a mom the other day who, she's like, my daughter has had eczema for over a year, this particular flare-up. We've done everything, prescription, steroids, over the counter, you name it. She's like, I don't believe in natural. I really am coming to you with very little confidence in this, but I heard through the grapevine, and at this point I'll do anything. We're not sleeping. And when you have eczema and you have a flare up and like everything's quiet, all you feel is that itch and clothing sucks and it's just miserable. And so we're like, okay, send us pictures. Let's see what, where you are in this stage so we can send a regimen. And 2 weeks into it, she's like, you're not going to believe it. We're on the skin repair, which is basically the flare-up is under control, and now we're just managing the scarring. And she's like, 2 weeks. We're sleeping. My daughter smiled for the first time. And it's just like gives me so much joy that we're here and that we get this moment. And to be able to help and preserve the integrity of the formula so that people can really get like whole foods, whole plant skin nutrition.
Yeah, I just on a side thought, as you said, this woman used it for her daughter. My other sister just had a baby last week. How is it for like a nappy rash, like diaper cream? Does it work for that too?
So we have a baby balm solution, which is basically a lighter concentration of the plants for their gentle skin. And it is your same concept, like first aid kit for a baby. So it is cradle cap, eczema, red bumps, diaper rash, and their nervous system and their skin, because your skin is born from the same embryonic tissue as your nervous system. It is rich in neurotransmitters. It is like their skin is just like, like I'm trying to develop. And so it also has some really fun essential oils so you can massage them from head to toe, because massaging them to help them with dysregulation and stimuli overload is really nice too. So then you're just like feeding them with these wonderful plants, allowing them an opportunity to calm, building their skin barrier, because a lot of that is they're just building their skin barrier.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's going to be
some
one
baby
of my
balm.
Welcome to the world gifts to my new nephew. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds incredible. So where can people get Green Goo? Because I know that everyone listening is going to be like, what? I want to get some of that. So where is it available?
GreenGoo.com and Amazon are the best places to get Green Goo. You'll find us sprinkled in stores, but we are more in online and Amazon today.
Okay. All right. Amazon globally?
Not globally yet. So
Okay,
a handful. We are slowly but surely opening Amazon in other countries. So
Okay.
order from our website. And if you have trouble making that, if you're international, send us an email and we can make it happen. And
Okay.
then we'll definitely keep you in tune, in the loop as we start opening up more countries.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to order some. I'm like super excited about it. So,
I don't know how people live without it. I can't.
yeah, well, I just think it's like it's such a testament to the product, right? That you're the founder, and when you were potentially having to close your business, you were like, I can't live without my own product. And so you found a way and you persevered, which is just really incredible. And I think when something is supposed to happen, like you were saying, when you called your friend who had just spoken to the Red Cross and he had all those jars that you were able to use or containers that you were able to use. When something's supposed to happen, divine intervention, like the universe intervening to pave the way for you, even when it seems impossible, that's really saying something, right? The survival story of Green Goo is like a testament to the product. I think people need it, right?
Completely. And I think, getting present to be aware of those opportunities in front of you, like those little magic miracles are happening all around you. Like the secret is just like also getting present so you can catch them. And I love those small moments when they happen and you're just like, oh, thank you. Thank you, universe. I needed that.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. So with all the wisdom that you have now from your Green Goo journey and all your scientific education and all the hurdles that you've experienced, what advice would you today give to yourself at your lowest point on this journey?
Well, it would be get present. And I'll give more context to this because, we were in such a state of fight or flight, building and going. And I think everything we talked about just kind of lands right here in this moment. And so when we were sitting at that kitchen table and we thought about buying the company back, I also was like, how? Like, we can't pay our bills. We don't have a job. We have nothing.
Yeah.
And I also, in that moment, was like, oh, I've got a call on Monday at 5 with my coach because I had hired this, I was like, CEOs have coaches and I'm going into this new partnership and I should have a coach so I can thrive and get out of survive mode, and whatever it is that these coaches do.
I get it.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And so I was like, I have to call him and tell him I can't pay him on Monday. Like it's not going to work. And so I text him and I'm like, hey, Timmy, like Monday 5, sorry. He's like, what happened? And I'm like, da, 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 we lost the company, we lost everything. He's like, show up Monday at 5. I'll be there for you every Monday at 5 until you don't need me anymore. And it was very sweet. But I'll tell you, when you're in that state of like paralysis, depression, anxiety, it felt inconvenient. I was like, I don't want this. This is a burden. And Monday rolled around. I had no intention of going. And I felt so guilty. I was like, I can't let another person down in my life. I've let them all down. Yeah. So I'm going to go into this call and I'm just going to be like, thank you, but no thank you. I appreciate you. And so we get on the call and he's like, so, what are you going to do? And I'm like, we talked about buying the company back. We can't buy the company back. We're never going to be able to buy the company back. And he's like, okay, your mental fitness boot camp starts now. And I was like, excuse me? Like I was trying to get off this call. And he's like, yeah. He's like, we're going to get you mentally fit. You have the answer. You just don't know how to find it yet. And we're going to get you present. And I'm like, what does present even mean? And he's like, you're going to set your alarm every 3 hours. And every 3 hours, you are going to stop what you're doing. I'm like, oh, stop there. I don't know how to stop what I'm doing when I'm doing something. And he's like, and then you're going to do a presence exercise. And I'm like, what on earth is that? And he's like, a couple examples. You're going to go outside. You're going to put your feet on the ground. You're going to feel your feet on the ground for 30 seconds. And you're going to let the thoughts come in and then go out. And then maybe you're going to look at the clouds. Maybe you're going to listen to the birds. He's like, you're going to take one of your 5 senses and you're going to focus on that one sense for 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And you're going to do that every 3 hours. And we're going to meet every Monday at 5 o'clock and I'm going to check in with you. And I'm like, this is insane. And so I was like, at this point, he kind of got my attention, but not really. I was like, fine, like we'll see how long this lasts. So the next day I set my alarm and I go outside. My husband's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing a presence exercise. Like, what is that? I'm like, don't know. I'm like, Timmy just told me to do it. And I mean, I'm like, put my feet on the ground and the thoughts are coming in and I'm just like, they're racing. And it's almost like they were amplified, and
yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a chance. So I just kept doing that every 3 hours, and it got easier. And I don't want to minimize this. It was super hard at first, but it got easier, and it got easier. And then Mondays we'd have our check-in. And then, maybe around the 3rd week, I started to really crave it and enjoy it. And then I started to get some ideas on like how I was going to do it. And I'm like, one Monday, I'm like, Timmy, I got an idea. And he's like, here we go. And then eventually I had more clarity and I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to this person. He wasn't giving me the answers. He wasn't telling me who to talk to. He was just making sure that I was sticking to the regiment. And then it got me confident again. I stopped worrying about how I was going to pay the bills. I stopped worrying about who I had let down. And I was just in the moment. And then I was in the moment to like talk to this person, go and have tough conversations, drop into board meetings, be strategic. And all of a sudden I like got my mojo back. And I tell people the best way to describe it is like, those like Neanderthal videos where you see like we were crawling and then we slowly were like standing upright.
I can picture like the diagram on the wall.
Yeah. And I'm like, all of a sudden I was like upright and I was like in it. And I was like, this is what it feels like to be present. Like when you're on vacation and you're like that feeling where like I should feel like this all the time. And then you go back to work and you forget about it. And I'm like, I want to be a tourist. I want to be on vacation in my mind all the time. And it's not that I'm not doing things. I'm just shifting my mindset. And so I would tell my younger self not to wait for that moment because I see now that I was only performing at like 20% of my capacity when I was building the company. And now I'm working harder than I ever have, but I am like at like a level of performance that far exceeds anything I've ever understood and the joy that I get from it. And so, and like, I never thought that the purpose could even be greater than as simple as us reinventing first aid. It's like, oh, it's so much more than that.
So much more than that. Yeah. Earlier when you talked about how stressed you were, when losing sort of everything, and you said you couldn't stop worrying about the past and you couldn't stop worrying about the future. In my mind, I was going to reflect you onto the theory and psychology of being in the here and now, right? Which is where we don't worry about the present and we don't worry about the past, and that's literally what your coach did, was he brought you into the here and now. So when I do grounding exercises with clients or like help them build up their toolkit, it's like 101 is like go for a walk in the park. And with kids we do, well, I mean you do it with adults too, but with kids you do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is where you go through your 5 main senses, and it doesn't matter which one you do in what order, but you have them say 5 things they can see, 4 things they can smell, 3 things they can hear, and by the time they get to the end, like whatever they were worried about or like having a tantrum about, like it's all gone and they're like back in the moment. So it's like bringing you back into your body, into the here and now, and it regulates your nervous system. So
if you guys are hearing this, rewind and listen to what she just said and like forge that in your mind and feel it in your body, because what Megan just shared is like such an amazing unlock that I wish I had known so much earlier, and not just as an entrepreneur and leader, but like as a human being. And it's equitable. I'm like, it's free. I didn't have to like sign up for anything. I didn't have to pay for something. I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah, I didn't learn it until it was shortly after COVID, and some of the training that I was doing around becoming a therapist, I worked with children, and some of the training that I had for working with kids that were like super overstimulated, and a lot of kids who'd been through a lot of trauma. Those were just some of the basic skills, and I was like, why don't they teach this in school? It's such a disservice that we don't know this stuff. Like, it's so basic. It
Oh
helps,
my gosh.
100% of the time, it works.
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
Yes, I could not agree more. And that's been like one of the greatest gifts of experiencing this, is that my daughter, she was telling me a story the other day where her teacher pulled her aside from taking a test and was like, I need to talk to you. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. And he was like, I really want to applaud you on how you took your test. And she's like, huh? And he's like, you rubbed your fingertips together, you took a couple deep breaths, and you just got in the moment. And then you worked through the problems you knew, and then you took a couple deep breaths. You came back to what you didn't know, and you utilized what you did know to help you. You got really present. Kira's like, Mom, it was like I was talking to you. Like, I'm like, so to your point, like, what a gift for people to understand this value and this empowerment that is in them, and so attainable at a younger age. Like, yeah, what a gift.
Yeah, incredible. And it's also the entrepreneur's journey. Like, I think it forces entrepreneurs. You have to experience the extreme highs and the extreme lows, like so much more so than like a normal human experience in the workplace. It's so amplified when you're an entrepreneur. So learning these skills is so like essential for day to day, because when things aren't going well in your business, it does feel like the end of the world. It really does. It's terrifying.
You bet it does. And then it wears your body down, and then you don't sleep, and then you don't
And then you
eat
get
well.
inflammation and you need Green Goo.
Exactly. So have Green Goo be a part of your high performance so that you stay ahead of it, and it keeps you in the presence. And there's so much clarity and innovation that comes from being in that state. Rick Rubin, the musician I love, and I didn't understand this when he first said it until I started this journey, and he was like, it's not about being creative, it's about being in the state so creativity happens. And I was like, now I actually understand that.
Yeah, being present completely. Thank you so much, Jodi. This was a really great conversation. I'm excited to listen back, and yeah, we'll have this one up soon for everyone. So, yeah.
Thank you. It's
so
a
much.
treat to be here with you.
Where can people connect with you? So they can get Green Goo on greengoo.com and on Amazon US. Where do they find you?
LinkedIn, Jodi A. Scott. Yes, that's probably the best way. And you can always email at Green Goo. It'll come to me. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Jodi.
Thank you. Have a beautiful evening.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Career Congregation. I hope it gave you something to think about or inspired you in some way. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to like, subscribe, or share this episode with someone you think it might resonate with. Every bit of support helps. If you know someone who you think would make a great guest, please send them my way via the link in the show bio. And if you'd like to support the show and the work that I do, you can buy me a coffee via the coffee link also in the show bio. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week for another conversation about all things career.